Have you ever found yourself looking at someone's behavior just completely stumped, thinking, why on earth are they doing that? Well, today, we're going to flip that question on its head. We're going to explore this idea that all behavior, especially the stuff we find really challenging, isn't just a problem we need to fix, it's actually a message that we can learn to decode. So let's grab our detective hats and start looking for clues.
I want you to just let this question sink in for a minute as we go through this. What if all those actions that seem so disruptive or confusing, what if they're actually a form of communication? Maybe even a last-ditch effort to be understood when nothing else has worked.
So our very first step, and it's a huge one, is to completely shift our perspective. It's about moving away from just slapping a label on a behavior and instead learning to actually listen to what it's trying to tell us. And there's a name for this approach, this more empathetic way of looking at things. It's called Positive Behavior Support, or PBS for short.
Okay, so let's get on the same page. What exactly is challenging behavior? The formal definition here gives us a solid starting point. We're talking about behavior that's so intense or happens so often that it puts people's safety at risk, or it literally stops someone from being part of their community. These are serious, real-world consequences that can really limit a person's life.
But, and this is a really big but, here's where we pivot away from that purely clinical view. This quote reminds us that what one person calls challenging, another might not. It's a social construct, right? It all depends on the context, the culture, our own expectations. But here's the key takeaway. No matter what we call it, the behavior is always meaningful to the person doing it. It has a purpose.
And that brings us to our central mission. We have to train ourselves to look past the surface, to stop reacting to what the behavior looks like. The hitting, the yelling, the shutting down, and start digging deeper to figure out why it's happening. What function is it serving? What is that person trying to get or get away from?
So to do that, we can't just guess. We need a tool. And I want you to think of yourself as a kind of behavior detective. You're not there to judge or blame, you're just there to gather clues. And your number one tool for this job is a process called a Functional Behavior Assessment, or an FBA. An FBA is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's a step-by-step, systematic way of gathering information, of collecting those clues about what a person does and what's going on around them when they do it. It's how we move from just shrugging our shoulders and guessing to forming a really solid, educated hypothesis about what's driving the behavior. And sitting right at the heart of this whole detective process is a super simple but incredibly powerful model, the ABCs. A is for antecedent, that's the trigger, what happens right before the behavior. B is for the behavior itself, the action. And C is for the consequence, the result, what happens immediately after. Each piece of that puzzle is a vital clue.
Now let's talk about that B for behavior for a sec, because this is so important. To be a good detective, you have to be objective. You have to be specific. Just saying someone is aggressive, what does that even mean? It's a judgment. But saying they hit with an open hand, leaving a red mark, now that is a clue. It's something you can see, you can measure, and it makes sure everyone on the support team is looking at the exact same thing.
So, with our ABC tool in hand, what are we actually looking for? Well, decades of research have shown us that most behavior is trying to achieve one of four main things. Is the person trying to get attention? Are they trying to get their hands on something they want, like a toy or an activity? Are they trying to escape or avoid something they don't want to do? Or is it about something internal, like sensory stimulation? This is the why that we're trying to crack.
All right, theory is great, but let's see how this all plays out in the real world. To make this really concrete, we're going to follow the story of a young man named Michael. We'll get to see his support team put on their detective hats and put these ABCs to the test.
So here's the situation. Michael is a young man with autism, and his team is really concerned about one specific behavior they're seeing, which is headbanging. Now, their goal isn't to just make it stop. Their goal is to understand it.
Okay, clue number one. The detective team is watching closely, and they jot down the antecedent. What happens right before the behavior? A support worker makes a simple, everyday request. Michael, it's time to pack away your toys. Next up, clue number two, the behavior itself. In response to that request, Michael begins banging his head on the table. It's clear, it's observable, that's the B. And now for the final and maybe most telling clue. The consequence. What happens the moment that headbanging starts? The support worker, who is understandably concerned for his safety, immediately removes the demand. The task of packing away the toys is stopped.
So, the detectives lay all the clues out on the table. The antecedent, a non-preferred task. The behavior, headbanging. The consequence, the task goes away. Suddenly, the hypothesis becomes crystal clear. Michael's behavior isn't random at all. It's an incredibly effective way of communicating, "I need to get out of this." It's serving the function of escape.
And this is the magic of it all. That hypothesis isn't just a theory. It becomes the blueprint for the support plan. Instead of just reacting to the behavior, the team can get proactive. They can change the antecedent, maybe make the task more fun. More importantly, they can teach Michael a new, safer skill, like how to use a card to ask for a break. And finally, they change the consequence. They reward him for asking for a break, making that the new, more effective way to communicate.
Michael's story is just such a powerful example of how this detective work can literally change a single person's life. But what happens when you take this same proactive, supportive way of thinking and apply it to whole organizations, or even entire communities? Well, that's when you start building real systems of support.
People often visualize this system as a pyramid. The big, wide base, Tier 1, that's all about universal support, creating positive, supportive environments that work for just about everybody. We're talking around 85% of people. Then, as you go up, the tiers get smaller, offering more targeted and specialized support, like the FBA we saw with Michael, for the smaller percentage of folks who need that extra, more intensive help. And this isn't just some abstract idea from a textbook. It has massive real-world impact. Take Australia's National Disability Insurance Scheme, the NDIS. They officially recognize this tiered model as a key way to improve quality of life, and this is huge, to reduce the use of restrictive practices.
And that really brings us to the absolute heart of the matter. This whole approach, from top to bottom, is grounded in human rights. It represents a fundamental shift away from controlling people and toward empowering them. It's about upholding their right to be included, to have autonomy, to have a say in their own life. It's really all about dignity.
So if you only take one single thing away from our time together today, please let it be this. Every single behavior is a form of communication. It serves a purpose. And our job isn't to punish it or stamp it out. Our job is to listen, to understand, and then to teach more effective, safer ways for that person to get their needs met.
And I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Now that you have this new lens, think about your own life, at home, at work, out in your community. If it's true that every behavior has a purpose, what messages are we all missing every single day?